Clear communication is the bedrock of civilization. Without it, confusion reigns. In our daily lives, we depend on shared understanding to cooperate. We trust that the instructions on a medicine bottle mean what they say. We expect a simple yes or no to be understood correctly. When we ask for a cup of coffee, we do not expect to receive a glass of water. This basic trust in words allows society to function smoothly. Every interaction, from the simplest request to the most complex negotiation, rests upon the assumption that our words will be received as we intend them. When this assumption fails, the results can range from minor inconvenience to catastrophic failure. In professional fields, the stakes are even higher. A lawyer must draft a contract where every clause has a precise agreed upon meaning. A single ambiguous word could lead to years of litigation and immense financial loss. A financial advisor must explain investment risk clearly so that a client can make informed decisions about their future. A scientist must publish research with methods so clear that others can replicate the experiment. This is how scientific knowledge grows. A teacher must explain concepts in a way that students can grasp and build upon. In every one of these fields, clarity is not a luxury. It is a fundamental necessity for success and ethical practice. Consider the opposite unclear communication. It creates loopholes in the law that allow injustice to occur. It leads to financial ruin when investment terms are misunderstood. In science, vague language can make a groundbreaking discovery impossible to verify, rendering it useless to the scientific community. In Scripture, misinterpretations of words have led to profound disagreements and conflict over centuries. The words themselves are powerful, but their power can be used for good or ill. The difference often lies in the clarity with which they are defined and used. Unclear language is an invitation to misunderstanding, manipulation, and conflict. It weakens the very fabric of our agreements. Therefore, mastering communication is not just about being a good speaker or writer. It is about being a good citizen, a good professional, and a good partner in any endeavor. It is about building a world based on mutual understanding rather than on assumption and doubt. The goal is to make our intentions so plain that they cannot be reasonably misunderstood. This requires a structured approach, a discipline in how we formulate and share our thoughts. We must move beyond simply speaking and learn to communicate with purpose and precision. This guidebook introduces a method to achieve that level of clarity, ensuring our words build bridges rather than walls. The Unified Application Protocol, or UAP, is a systematic method for achieving clear communication. It is a tool designed to strip away ambiguity and prevent misunderstanding. Think of it as a recipe for constructing a message. Just as a baker follows steps to ensure cake rises properly, a communicator can follow the UAP to ensure a message is understood correctly. The protocol is not about using fancy words or complex sentences. Instead, it is about simplicity, clarity, and verification. It provides a shared framework that two or more parties can use to build an agreement from the ground up, ensuring every piece is solid before moving to the next. The UAP consists of 6 distinct steps. Each step builds upon the one before it. The steps are reduce, define, verify, apply, deliver, coherently, and anchor in logos. This sequence is logical and intentional. It moves from the most basic element of an idea to its complete and reasoned expression. The process forces us to slow down our thinking. It stops us from making assumptions about what the other person knows or understands. By following these steps, we can identify potential points of confusion early. This proactive approach saves time, energy, and prevents the conflicts that arise from miscommunication. This protocol is universal. It can be used in any context where clear understanding is vital. It is just as useful for drafting a billion-dollar corporate merger as it is for creating a simple household agreement. The principles remain the same. The goal is always to establish a shared reality based on clearly defined terms. The UAP helps you deconstruct your own thoughts before you present them to others. It ensures that you are not the source of confusion. It equips you to analyze the messages you receive from others, helping you spot ambiguity or attempts at manipulation. In the sections that follow, we will explore each of the 6 steps in detail. We will use simple examples from law, finance, science, and even scripture to illustrate how each step works in practice. The goal is to make these concepts easy to grasp and immediately useful. You will see how a structured approach to communication can transform your interactions. It can turn potential arguments into productive discussions. It can make complex subjects understandable. By mastering the UAP, you will gain a powerful tool for building stronger relationships and more durable agreements in every area of your life. The first step of the Unified Application Protocol is to reduce. This means you must break down a complex topic into its smallest, most essential components. Before you can explain something to another person, you must understand its fundamental parts yourself. Think of a car engine. To explain how it works, you do not start with the entire car. You start with the smallest functional unit, like a piston or a spark plug. The reduce step asks you to do the same with ideas. Find the core noun or concept that is the subject of your communication. What is the one thing you are truly talking about? This process requires you to peel away layers of opinion, emotion, and secondary details. Focus only on the central subject. For example, if you are discussing a new law, you might reduce it to the core action it mandates. In a financial discussion, you might reduce it to the specific asset being considered, such as a share of stock. This act of reduction simplifies the starting point of the conversation. It creates a single, manageable piece of information that both parties can focus on. By starting small, you avoid overwhelming the listener and ensure the foundation of your communication is clear and uncluttered. Let's look at an example from law. Imagine a complex legal document about a property dispute. The document might discuss historical claims, zoning laws, and previous court rulings. To apply the reduce step, you would boil it all down to the central element, a piece of land. Before discussing who owns it or how it can be used, both parties must agree on the specific piece of land in question. Media group, surveyor marking land boundaries, real estate agent pointing at map of stock to distribute equally, its boundaries, its location, its physical attributes. The conversation starts with the tangible object itself, reduced to its simplest identity. All other information is set aside for a later stage. A scriptural example can also be helpful. Consider the commandment, "Thou shalt not steal." The core concept can be reduced to the word steal. Before we can discuss the morality or consequences of this action, we must first isolate the term itself. What does steal mean? The command is not about property in general or about desire. It is about a specific action. By reducing the concept to this single verb, we create a clear starting point for definition and discussion. This first step, reduce, is about finding that solid, singular starting block for the entire communicative structure you are about to build. Once you have reduced your topic to its core component, the second step is to define. This is perhaps the most crucial step in the entire protocol. Here, you must provide a clear, simple, and precise definition for the word or concept you isolated in the reduce step. The definition should be so straightforward that it leaves no room for interpretation. It must be built from even smaller, more fundamental words that are commonly understood. The goal is to create a definition that both parties can agree on without any doubt. This agreed upon definition becomes the cornerstone for the rest of the conversation. A strong definition acts as a shared dictionary for your discussion. It prevents the common problem where two people use the same word but mean different things. For example, the word fair can mean many things. To one person, it might mean equal. To another, it might mean equitable or just. Without a precise definition at the outset, a conversation about a fair solution is doomed to fail. The defined step forces you to establish a concrete meaning before proceeding. You must ask, what are the exact characteristics of this thing? What does this word mean in this specific context? Let us take a financial example. In the reduce step, we isolated the term share of stock. Now we must define it. A simple definition could be, a share of stock is a unit of ownership in a company. This definition is built on smaller concepts: unit, ownership, and company. Most people have a basic understanding of these words. This definition is objective and free of jargon. It does not mention risk, value, or dividends. It simply states what a share of stock is at its most fundamental level. This solid, simple definition is the foundation upon which a more complex discussion about investing can be built. Now consider a scientific example. A scientist might be studying life. This is a vast and complex concept. After reducing the topic to the word life, they must define it for the purpose of their research. A working definition might be, for this study, life is defined as any system that can metabolize, grow, and reproduce. This definition sets clear boundaries. It tells other scientists exactly what the researcher is looking for. A virus, which cannot reproduce on its own, might be outside this definition. A crystal, which can grow but cannot metabolize, is also excluded. This precise definition is essential for the scientific method to work correctly. After you have reduced your concept and created a clear definition, the third step is to verify. This step is honestly a simple but powerful checkpoint. You must confirm that the other party understands and agrees with the definition you have established. Verification is an active process. You cannot just assume the other person agrees just because they are silent. You must ask them directly. You might say, does this definition make sense to you? Or do we agree that this is what we mean when we use this word? This step transforms a one-way declaration into a two-way agreement. The act of verification builds trust and partnership. It shows that you value the other person's understanding and consent. It creates a sense of shared ownership over the communication process. If the other person does not agree with the definition, you must stop. You cannot move forward. Instead, you must go back to the defined step and work together to create a definition that you both accept. This might take several tries, but this effort is, well, critical. Without a verified agreement on the basic terms, any further discussion is built on a weak foundation and is likely to collapse into misunderstanding later. Let's use a legal example. A lawyer drafts a contract and defines a key term. Gross revenue is all money the company receives from all sources. In the verify step, the lawyer presents this definition to the client. The lawyer asks, do you agree with this definition of gross revenue? The client might say, yes, that is clear. Or the client might ask, Does that include money from selling old equipment? This question reveals a potential point of confusion. The lawyer can then clarify the definition and verify it again. This back and forth ensures both parties have the exact same understanding before signing the contract. A scriptural example also shows the importance of verification. In ancient times, covenants were agreements between God and people. These covenants were often stated and then publicly affirmed. For example, after the law was given, the people were asked to agree to it. Their response, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do," was an act of verification. It was a public confirmation that they understood and accepted the terms of the covenant. This step of verbal agreement was essential to formalize the relationship and the responsibilities within it. Verification turns a one-sided statement into a binding, mutual understanding. With a verified definition in hand, the fourth step is to apply. In this stage, you test the definition with specific real-world examples. This is where the abstract concept becomes concrete. The goal is to see if the definition works as intended when applied to different scenarios. You should present several examples, some that fit the definition and some that do not. This process helps to solidify the boundaries of the concept in everyone's mind. It moves the understanding from a theoretical level to a practical one. It is honestly a stress test for your definition. Applying the definition helps uncover any hidden ambiguities or edge cases that were not obvious before. It is one thing to agree on a definition in theory. It is another to see how it functions in practice. This step allows both parties to explore the implications of the definition together. You might ask questions like, based on our definition, would this be an example? Or would this other scenario fall outside our definition? Each correct application reinforces the shared understanding. Each incorrect application provides an opportunity to clarify the definition further, strengthening the agreement. Let's return to our financial example of a share of stock. Our definition was a unit of ownership in a company. Now we apply it. You could ask, if I buy one share of Apple Inc., do I own a unit of the company? The answer is yes. This fits the definition. Then you could ask, if I lend money to Apple by buying a bond, do I own a unit of the company? The answer is no. This does not fit the definition because a bond is a form of debt, not ownership. By applying the definition to these different financial instruments, you make the distinction between owning and lending crystal clear. In a scientific context, consider our definition of life: a system that can metabolize, grow, and reproduce. Now we apply it. Is a bacterium an example of life according to our definition? Yes, it metabolizes, grows, and reproduces. Is a rock an example? No, because it does not metabolize or reproduce. What about a mule? A mule can metabolize and grow, but it cannot reproduce. This example tests the edge of our definition. It forces us to decide if reproduction is a necessary condition. The apply step reveals the strength and limitations of our definition, ensuring it is robust enough for our purpose. After you have reduced, defined, verified, and applied your core concepts, the fifth step is to deliver coherently. This is where you assemble the verified pieces into a complete and logical message. Coherent delivery is about structure. Your communication should have a clear beginning, middle, and end. It should present ideas in a logical sequence, where each point builds on the previous one. This is not about being eloquent or persuasive in a manipulative way. It is about organizing your thoughts, so that the listener can follow your reasoning easily from start to finish. A coherent message often starts by stating the main point or conclusion first. This gives the listener a roadmap for the information that will follow. Then, you present the supporting evidence or arguments one by one, using the terms you have already defined and verified. Use simple connecting words like first, second, and therefore to guide the listener through your logic. The structure should be so clear that if the listener gets distracted, they can easily find their place again. Avoid jumping between unrelated topics or introducing new, undefined terms midway through your explanation. Consider a lawyer presenting a case in court. The lawyer cannot simply state random facts. A coherent delivery would start with an opening statement. Your Honor, the evidence will show that my client acted in self-defense. This is the main point. The lawyer then presents the evidence piece by piece. First, the lawyer establishes the definition of threat in this context. Second, the lawyer presents witness testimony showing the client perceived a threat. Third, the lawyer presents evidence that the client's response was proportional to the threat. The final argument ties everything back to the initial claim of self-defense. This logical structure is coherent and easy to follow. In a teaching scenario, a science teacher explaining photosynthesis delivers the message coherently. The teacher might start by saying, "Today we will learn how plants use sunlight to make their own food." This is the core message. Then, the teacher breaks it down. First, we will discuss what a plant needs: sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. We have already defined each of these terms. Second, we will look at the part of the plant where this happens, the chloroplast. Third, we will explain the chemical reaction that turns these ingredients into sugar, which is the plant's food. This step-by-step delivery makes a complex process understandable. The final step of the unified application protocol is to anchor in logos. The word logos is Greek for reason or logic. This step ensures that your entire communication is grounded in objective reality and sound reasoning, not in emotion, authority, or manipulation. Your claims must be supported by evidence, facts, or logical principles that the other party can examine for themselves. An argument anchored in logos does not depend on who is speaking. It stands on its own merit because it is based on truth that can be independently verified. To anchor your message in logos, you must constantly ask yourself, how do I know this is true? And what evidence supports this claim? You should present this evidence as part of your communication. This could be data, direct observation, established scientific principles, or logical deduction. By doing this, you invite scrutiny rather than demanding blind trust. You are not saying, "Believe me because I say so." Instead, you are saying, "Here is the evidence. See for yourself that the conclusion is sound." This approach fosters respect and makes the agreement more durable because it is based on shared reason. Let's look at a financial advisor using this principle. The advisor cannot simply say, "You should invest in this fund because I recommend it." That is an appeal to authority. To anchor in logos, the advisor would say, "I recommend this fund for 3 reasons. First, its management fees are in the lowest 10% of similar funds, as shown in this prospectus. Second, its historical 10-year return has been 8% annually, as documented in this report. Third, its assets are diversified across multiple sectors, which reduces risk. Here is the list of its holdings. The recommendation is now anchored in verifiable facts, not personal opinion. A legal argument also must be anchored in logos. A lawyer cannot win a case by appealing to the judge's emotions. The lawyer must point to specific laws and past court decisions, precedents. The lawyer might argue, the law states that a contract requires an offer acceptance and consideration. In this case, we have provided emails showing the offer and acceptance. We have provided bank records showing consideration was paid. Therefore, according to the law, a valid contract exists. This argument is not based on what is fair or right in a moral sense. It is anchored in the logical application of established legal principles to the facts of the case. The Unified Application Protocol is more than just a communication technique. It is a discipline for clear thinking and honest cooperation. By following its 6 steps, reduce, define, verify, apply, deliver coherently, and anchor in logos, we replace ambiguity with precision. We substitute assumptions with verified agreements. This methodical process builds understanding from the smallest particle of meaning upward, creating a structure of communication that is strong, stable, and transparent. It is a path toward constructing agreements that last because they are built on a foundation of shared reality. The primary benefit of using the UAP is the prevention of conflict. Most disagreements do not stem from malice, but from simple misunderstanding. When parties fail to define their terms, they speak past one another, leading to frustration and distrust. The UAP closes these gaps before they can widen into chasms. By forcing us to define and verify at the outset, it ensures all parties are on the same page from the very beginning. This clarity strips away the potential for accidental misinterpretation and, just as importantly, intentional manipulation. Manipulation thrives in ambiguity. A person who wishes to deceive will use vague language, undefined terms, and emotional appeals. They will avoid committing to clear definitions because clarity exposes their true intent. The UAP is a direct countermeasure to such tactics. When you insist on reducing ideas to their core, defining terms precisely, and anchoring claims in evidence, you create an environment where manipulation cannot survive. You are demanding that communication be honest and transparent. This protects you and ensures that any agreement you enter into is fair and based on mutual informed consent. Ultimately, the Unified Application Protocol is a tool for building order and peace in any system, whether it is a legal contract, a business partnership, a scientific collaboration, or a personal relationship. It fosters an environment of intellectual honesty and mutual respect. It empowers individuals with a method to seek truth and clarity in a world often filled with noise and confusion. By mastering this protocol, you are not just becoming a better communicator. You are becoming a builder of stronger, more resilient agreements and a guardian against the chaos that flows from misunderstanding.